He kissed my forehead at the altar and handed me to his friend by nightfall. The room smelled like roses, but something sour lingered underneath. I sat in the makeup chair, veil clipped in, lipstick fresh, but my fingers kept brushing the smooth ivory of my dress like I was searching for a rip. The stylist chirped something about perfection. I smiled politely, but inside, I was counting how many minutes were left until the ceremony. 13. 13 minutes, until I became Mrs. Alexander Grant. 13 minutes until I said forever. He had kissed my hand that morning, said, "No nerves today, baby." I've waited my whole life for this, but his phone buzzed 3 times while he said it, and he turned its screen down. The knock on the bridal suite door startled everyone. My sister Ruby rushed over, assuming it was Alex. Instead, it was Julian, his best man, his closest friend since college. The one who had made the toast at our rehearsal dinner about brotherhood stronger than blood. He walked in like he owned the air. "Bride check," he said with a cocky smile. "Just wanted to make sure you weren't running off." The room chuckled, but my jaw tightened. Julian's eyes swept over me, slow, and I didn't like the way they lingered. "You look beautiful, Claire," he said softer now, stepping close. "Radiant." I forced a smile. "Thanks, Julian." He leaned down as if adjusting a loose curl and whispered, "You sure you want to do this?" I pulled back. "Excuse me?" But he was already walking away, tapping his phone. "Just looking out for you." Ruby frowned as he left. "What was that about?" I shook my head, but my stomach twisted. I reached for my phone on the vanity. Nothing from Alex in over 2 hours. He was supposed to send me a photo with his cufflinks, our little tradition. He always did it before big events. Always. I texted, "Where are you? You okay?" No reply. The planner knocked 10 minutes later. "Time to head to the aisle." The march to the ceremony felt like walking underwater. People smiled and clapped as I passed, but their faces blurred. I kept searching for Alex at the altar. He stood tall, handsome, tux crisp. But his eyes weren't on me. They were locked on Julian, who stood just behind him, whispering something. My father handed me off. The officiant began to speak. "Dearly beloved." I tried to steady my breath, but Alex's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Alex," the officiant said, "do you take Claire to be your—" Julian's phone buzzed. Loud. Alex glanced at it. His expression flickered, then went still. "Sorry," Julian muttered, silencing it. The pause stretched too long. "Alex?" the officiant prompted. He blinked, looked at me, then said, "Yes, I do." My knees went weak from relief. I said my vows, voice trembling. He said his, but even as he slid the ring on my finger, his thumb shook. We kissed. The crowd erupted in applause. Cameras flashed, but when I turned to look at Julian, his grin was wide and wrong. Like he was watching something unfold exactly how he planned. At the reception, everything felt off. The speeches ran long. Alex kept checking his phone. And Julian? He hovered, always too close. "Dance with me," Alex said eventually, pulling me to the floor, but he held me too loosely like I was made of glass. I looked up at him. "What's going on?" "Nothing," he said. "Too fast. I'm just tired." "Is it Julian?" His jaw clenched. "Don't start." "You've been weird since this morning," I pressed. "Tell me now. Before." "I find out from someone else," he opened his mouth, closed it, then shook his head. "It's our wedding night. Please don't ruin it." I stepped back. "I'm not the one ruining anything." He let go of my hand. I stormed off the floor, heading toward the hallway where the catering staff passed. I just needed air, space. That's when I saw it. Julian, standing half in shadow, whispering to a woman in a red dress. Her back was to me, but I knew that curve of the spine, that clipped wave of brown hair. Natalie, Alex's ex. She turned and kissed Julian's cheek before slipping something into his hand. A flash drive. I backed away, heart racing, but Julian caught sight of me. "Claire," he called, stepping toward me, "you shouldn't be back here." I stood my ground. What's on that drive? He raised an eyebrow. Paranoid on your wedding night. I saw Natalie. I saw you, he smirked. You always were smarter than Alex gave you credit for. My breath hitched. He leaned in. That drive. It's a wedding. Gift. To who? He stepped even closer. Let's just say, I've been protecting Alex for years, cleaning up the messes, hiding the secrets. But today I'm done pretending he deserves you. You're disgusting. You're angry, he said calmly, but you'll thank me when you see it. I shoved past him, heart slamming, searching for Alex. I found him by the bar, drink in hand, laughing too loudly with groomsmen. I pulled him aside. What did Julian mean about protecting you? What's on the drive? His face drained. You saw him. I want the truth. Right now he looked away. Claire, did you cheat on me? Silence. Was it with Natalie? His jaw clenched. It was before the engagement. Answer the damn question. Yes, he whispered. I slapped him. The entire reception went still. I stood in front of all these people, I said, voice shaking, and promised you forever. He reached for me. Claire. I stepped back. You broke forever before we even started. Behind me, Julian raised a glass. To the bride, he said, voice smooth and cruel. May she finally know the truth. I looked back once at both of them, then I turned and walked out, veil trailing behind me like a ghost of the girl who believed him. The suite was too quiet. I sat alone in my wedding dress, heels off, hairpins digging into my scalp. The room was dim except for the flicker of city lights bleeding through the curtains. A bottle of champagne sat sweating on the table, 2 flutes beside it, untouched. My phone screen glowed in my lap, still nothing. No text, no call, just silence, from the man who promised forever. I had changed out of the gown. Now I wore the silk robe they left for me, the one embroidered with Mrs. Grant on the back like it meant something. My hands were folded, but they wouldn't stop trembling. Every tick of the clock felt louder than the one before. He was supposed to be here. A knock broke the silence. I stood up too fast. My breath caught. I ran to the door, heart pounding, already rehearsing my anger, my relief. But when I opened it, it wasn't Alex. It was Julian. His tie was gone. His shirt sleeves were rolled up. He held a keycard in one hand and a half smile on his face. His eyes scanned me slowly like he was taking inventory of every crack in my armor. He's not coming, he said. I stared at him. What did you just say? Julian stepped inside like he owned the room. Alex. He left. You're lying. He tossed the keycard onto the coffee table and turned to face me. No. He walked out of the hotel 20 minutes ago, got into a car with Natalie. My legs went weak. I reached for the back of the couch to keep from falling. Why? Why would you tell me this? Because someone should, he said, voice lower now. And he never will. I shook my head. No, he wouldn't do that. Not tonight. Julian walked closer. Claire. He already did. I backed away. This is a game to you, isn't it? You ruin the wedding, poison the reception, now this? His eyes narrowed. I warned you. I gave you every sign. You chose him anyway. Because he was my husband, Julian scoffed. No, he was a transaction. One he couldn't even finish. What does that mean? I asked, voice cracking. Julian reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded document. He handed it to me, slow and deliberate. Read the fine print. I unfolded it with shaking fingers. My eyes scanned the top. Confidential agreement. Transfer of marital partnership. I blinked. This is a joke. Julian didn't laugh. It's the original draft. Alex never signed it, but he considered it. Long enough to send it to me. I looked up. He was going to give me to you. Not in those words, Julian said softly. But, yes, that was the plan. Let the marriage fall apart quietly. I'd swoop in. Be the savior. Make it look clean. I dropped the paper like it burned. You both are monsters. No, Julian said. He is. I'm just the fool who thought I could rewrite the ending. I turned away, gripping the windowsill. My reflection in the glass looked like a ghost. Makeup faded, lips pale, eyes swollen. Julian stepped closer. He wanted to sell the story. Turn it into a PR move. Said it would distract from the lawsuit. What lawsuit? Ask him about the misused charity funds, Julian said. Ask him why the same night he proposed to you, he also wired 50 grand to silence someone. I covered my mouth like that would keep the scream inside. Why are you telling me all this now? He hesitated. Because I was supposed to benefit from your downfall, and I can't stomach it anymore. I turned around. So what? You get points for telling the truth now? After everything? No, he said. I don't get anything. We stared at each other in the heavy silence. The air between us was thick with betrayal and guilt and something worse, possibility. Julian moved closer. You deserve better. Don't, I warned. Don't pretend this was noble. He nodded once. Okay. I waited for him to leave. But he didn't. He looked down at the document still lying on the floor, then back at me. Do you want revenge? My throat tightened. What? Real revenge. Not crying in a suite, not disappearing quietly. I mean ruin, the kind that leaves headlines, the kind that makes powerful men squirm. I didn't answer, but I didn't say no. Julian smiled, just a little. Good. Because he thinks you'll stay quiet. He thinks shame will keep you small. What's your angle? I asked. I don't have one anymore, he said. But I know where the bodies are buried. And I still have the passwords. My pulse raced. And what do you want in return? Julian picked up one of the untouched champagne flutes and handed it to me. He clinked his glass to mine. To the widow who never got a wedding night, he said. And then he whispered, let's bury him alive. The pillows still smelled like roses and him. I ripped one off the bed and screamed into it, muffling the sound like that would somehow hide the mess my life had become. The silk felt soft against my face, but the vows stitched into the fabric scratched like broken promises. To have and to hold, embroidered in gold thread. A sick joke now. The sweet lights were dimmed low, but nothing could hide the glow of betrayal. The dress I wore just hours ago now lay crumpled on the floor like a discarded costume. The tiara was still in my hair. I yanked it off and threw it against the wall. It hit with a soft thud, landed beside the torn wedding, gift wrap, and the untouched champagne. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Alex. I just need space. We'll talk tomorrow? Space? After leaving me alone on our wedding night? After sending Julian instead of facing me himself? I stared at the screen, my fingers shaking. I wanted to throw it across the room. Instead, I typed, "You're a coward." No reply. I dropped the phone and sat back on the bed, staring at the ceiling like it could answer the question burning in my chest. How did I not see this coming? The door creaked open. I looked up fast, expecting Julian again, but it was housekeeping. "Oh, I'm sorry, Mom," the woman said. "I didn't mean." "It's fine," I muttered. "Just, please close the door." She nodded and left quickly, and the silence returned. I buried my face into the pillow again, biting back another scream. The worst part wasn't the cheating, it wasn't even the lies. It was knowing he never planned to stay. That all of it, the cake, the guests, the vows, had been a performance. And I had been the only one who believed the script. The soft chime of an email notification cut through the silence. I grabbed the phone again. Subject, RE. Transfer agreement draft. Urgent. It was from Alex's lawyer. And I was CC'd. I blinked. My name wasn't supposed to be on this chain. I opened the thread. There it was. The same document Julian had shown me earlier. Except this time the email had a full paper trail. Dates, attachments, revisions. Alex. She won't fight it. Just give her the illusion of a clean exit. Lawyer. Then we'll need her to sign the NDA immediately after the honeymoon, yes? Alex. She won't make it to the honeymoon. My hands went numb. I dropped the phone and stumbled backward like the email had hit me in the chest. He had planned this. Every step, down to the hour. I wasn't his bride. I was leverage. A tool. A cover. I picked up the bouquet still sitting on the dresser and tore it apart, petals scattering across the room like ashes. A knock came again. This time I didn't answer. "Claire," Julian's voice called through the door. "Open up." "No. I have something you need to see." I marched to the door and yanked it open. "Unless it's a time machine, I don't care." He held up a tablet. "You're going to want this." I crossed my arms. "Why?" "Another betrayal I didn't ask for?" He sighed. "Just watch." He pushed past me and set the tablet on the bed, hitting play. It was security footage. Hotel lobby. Alex, walking out with a suitcase. Natalie by his side. Timestamp, 12:17 a.m. He hadn't just left. He had checked out. I collapsed onto the edge of the bed, staring blankly at the screen. Julian knelt beside me. "He's gone, Claire. And he's not coming back. I know." He looked at me, surprised. "You do?" I met his eyes. "He planned this months ago." Julian nodded slowly. "Then you know what you have to do." I laughed bitterly. "Oh, you mean give a press statement? Smile for the cameras? Claire Grant exits marriage with grace and silence. That line's probably already written." He leaned closer. "No, I mean blow it up." I looked at him. "I mean," he said, "leak the emails, the contract, the footage, all of it. Expose him." "Why would you help me?" He hesitated. "Because I was part of it once. And I need to make that right." I shook my head. "You're not a hero, Julian." "I don't want to be." The room was still again. Except now it felt different. There was no more pretending, no more illusions. I stood and walked to the closet. I pulled out my carry-on and tossed it on the bed. "What are you doing?" Julian asked. "Packing." "Where will you go?" I turned to him, voice steady. "To destroy him." Julian smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You sure you're ready for that?" I looked at the pillow with the stitched vows one last time, then threw it in the trash. More than ready. And in that moment, I wasn't the girl left waiting anymore. I was the woman walking straight into war. The envelope sat on the kitchen counter, plain and unmarked, like it hadn't just gutted my entire world. I stared at it with coffee gone cold in my hands, my reflection warped in the dark surface of the mug. The sun was rising over the city skyline, but it felt wrong, like the light didn't belong in this house anymore. The only sound was the soft hum of the fridge and the paper-thin silence after a storm no one saw coming. Julian had dropped it off himself. No words, just a tight nod, and that same unreadable expression he wore at the altar when he watched Alex kiss me like it was routine. I hadn't opened the envelope right away. Something in me already knew. But now I had, and I couldn't unsee it. Inside was a handwritten note from her, Natalie. "You were always the trade." He just made it look like a vow. My breath caught again just reading it. I ran my thumb along the edge of the paper like I was trying to erase the ink with skin. I heard the front door open behind me. I didn't turn around. "Claire." Alex's voice, called, hesitant. "I know you got it." I placed the cup down slowly. "Took you long enough?" His footsteps were soft on the marble floor, like he thought I might break if he walked too loud. "I can explain," he started. "Don't. Just let me—" I spun around. "You made a deal, Alex." "With my life." He looked wrecked. Hair a mess, tie loose like he'd slept in it, but it didn't make me pity him. It made me furious. "It wasn't like that," he said. "Then tell me," I said. "Tell me how selling your bride to your best friend wasn't what it looked like." He opened his mouth, closed it. I stepped closer. "Was it for the business? For the inheritance? Did Julian offer you something you couldn't refuse?" He ran a hand through his hair. "I didn't think she'd actually leave the note." I blinked. "So it's true," he sighed. "Natalie was supposed to stay quiet. Julian promised she wouldn't say anything. You were still in love with her." "No." Claire, no. I loved you, but I was desperate. I snapped. Is that what I was to you? A deal to get you out of the mess you made? His eyes burned. You don't understand what was at stake. I understand exactly what was at stake. Me. He moved toward me. I stepped back. Don't, I warned. Alex stopped. Claire, I didn't go through with it. But you planned it, I said. And that's worse. Because every moment that felt real, every kiss, every I love you, it was built on a lie. He looked like he wanted to deny it, but he couldn't. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the flash drive Julian had given me last night. I tossed it on the counter between us. It's all here. The contract, the text threads, even the drafts of the press release in case the scandal leaked. You covered every angle. Alex's jaw clenched. Julian was never supposed to show you that, because you knew once I saw it you'd lose control of the story. He didn't answer. I stepped forward now, voice like ice. You didn't just betray me, Alex. You auctioned me. I was protecting us, he said, desperate now. I was trying to make sure we survived. Survived what? Your ego, your reputation? I had no choice. You had 1,000 choices, I said, and every single one you made, was without me. His face collapsed into something small, weak. I messed up. Don't flatter yourself, I whispered. You didn't mess up. You engineered this. We stood in the kitchen, silence hanging thick between us, and then he asked it, so soft, I almost missed it. Is there any way to fix it? I stared at him. The man who had promised me forever and signed me away like a contract clause. And then I laughed, short, sharp, empty. You think this can be fixed with an apology? I'm still your husband. No, I said. You're just a man I married. The husband I believed in never existed. He looked shattered, but I wasn't done. You should go now. Claire? I walked to the door and opened it. Leave. He hesitated, then stepped through. I shut the door behind him, without another word. The silence returned. I turned back to the counter and stared at the note again. At her cruel, perfect handwriting. You were always the trade. I reached for my phone, heart steady now. I dialed the only person left who didn't lie to me this week. Julian answered on the second ring. I read it, I said. His voice was calm. I figured you would. I'm ready. For what? For the part where we don't just burn him, I said. We salt the earth he stood on. Julian was quiet. Then he said, Good. Because the board meets tomorrow morning, I smiled just a little. Let's give them a show they'll never forget. The bathroom was too quiet, too clean. White marble, spotless mirror, chrome fixtures that gleamed like they'd never seen a real mess. I stood there, in a borrowed robe, the tag still scratching the back of my neck. The hotel had upgraded me to the penthouse out of pity, or maybe guilt. A gift for the bride left behind. I hadn't slept. My makeup from the night before had turned into dark smudges under my eyes. I looked like someone else, someone who had been burned. But when I stared into the mirror, I didn't see a victim. I saw fire. There was no more confusion, no more bargaining. I had the emails, the drive, the proof. Alex had sold my trust like a stock option, and Julian had delivered the final blow wrapped in silk and secrets. But what they hadn't expected was that I'd still be standing. The knock came again. Same rhythm as before. Sharp. 2, short. 1 long. Julian. I didn't answer. Instead, I opened the drawer under the sink and pulled out the small leather pouch I had packed for the honeymoon. Inside were the earrings my mother gave me, the necklace I never wore, and my emergency lipstick, deep crimson, like war paint. Another knock. I uncapped the lipstick slowly, staring at my reflection as I dragged the red across my lips. This wasn't about Alex anymore. It was about me. The door opened. Of course it did. Julian never waited. Long. I figured you'd be up, he said, stepping inside like he owned the place. The board meeting's in 2 hours. We have to go soon. I didn't turn. Why me? He paused. What? I turned toward him, arms crossed. Why did you pick me? Out of all the women he could have married, why did he choose me to use? Julian leaned against the doorframe, eyes calculating. Because you were good. And real. And that terrified him. And you. He smiled faintly. I was hoping you'd destroy him. Turns out. You might destroy both of us. I stared at him, hard. You didn't come clean because you care. You did it because you knew the house was already burning. His mouth tightened. Maybe. You're just as bad as he is. Julian stepped closer. But I'm standing with you now. I didn't move. Only because there's something in it for you. He didn't deny it. I brushed past him and walked to the closet. The dress I'd chosen for the honeymoon dinner, sleek black silk with sharp shoulders, hung untouched. I pulled it out. You're really doing this, he said behind me. I'm not walking into that boardroom as a broken bride, I replied. I'm walking in as the woman they should fear. Julian let out a breath. Good. I changed behind the dressing screen, the soft rustle of fabric, the only sound between us. When I stepped out, he was already at the minibar pouring 2 glasses of scotch. It's 7:30 a.m., I said. It's war, he replied, handing me one. I took it. The burn in my throat was the first thing that felt real in hours. He pulled a folder from his coat and placed it on the table. This is everything. The charity fraud, the hush payments, the board bribes. You lead with that. Then you let the email from Natalie's lawyer land like a knife. I flipped through the pages. It was all there. And then I stopped. There was a name I hadn't seen before. A fund. One that had my name listed as co-owner. I looked up. What is this? Julian glanced over. Alex added your name to that account last week. Why? So it would look like you were in on it too, if anything ever leaked. I stared at him. He made me the fall girl? Julian nodded. If you didn't play along, he'd let the authorities think you helped. My stomach twisted. He planned every exit but mine. Exactly. I closed the folder slowly. Then I smiled. Let's go. Julian raised an eyebrow. Just like that? I turned to the mirror one last time, smoothing my hair, fixing the gold clasp on my wrist. No more tears, I said. No more waiting. He nodded. Cars downstairs. As I walked past him, he stopped me. One question, he said. What are you going to say when they ask why you stayed silent for this long? I didn't miss a beat. I'll tell them I was waiting for the right moment. And now? I looked him dead in the eye. Now I'm the moment. And then I walked out, leaving the shattered girl in the mirror behind. The conference room buzzed with nervous energy. Men in suits shuffled papers, exchanged fake laughs, avoided eye contact with the screen at the front. I sat at the far end of the table, calm as glass. The kind of calm you only earn after you've drowned and decided never to go under again. My heels clicked against the marble floor as I crossed one leg over the other, the only sound in the silence that followed. Alex walked in 5 minutes late. He looked like power used to, slicked back hair, pressed suit, confident smirk. But his eyes twitched when they landed on me. He didn't expect to see me here. Claire, he said like my name was a minor inconvenience. Didn't realize you'd be attending. I smiled, small and sharp. I'm not attending. I'm presenting. He hesitated. Just enough for everyone to notice. Julian stood against the back wall, arms crossed, watching like he was waiting for a storm he helped build. I didn't look at him. Not yet. The chairman cleared his throat. Shall we begin? Alex straightened. Let's. He launched into his opening remarks, all confidence and charm. Talked about growth, legacy, reputation, words that used to make my stomach flutter. Now they just made me tired. When he finished, the room turned to me. I stood, clicked the remote, the projector blinked, and a folder opened on screen titled Proof of Breach, Claire Grant. Alex's face went white. I didn't flinch. The first slide showed screenshots of the offshore accounts, then the email trails, the NDA drafts, the charity embezzlement paths. complete with wire transfer logs. Gasps filled the room. Chairs shifted. Alex's voice cracked. "This is private information." Illegally obtained, I turned to him. "You listed me as co-owner of the dummy accounts. Legally, that makes it mine." The chairman leaned forward. "Is this true?" Alex didn't answer. Slide after slide followed. Every lie, every cover-up, every time he used someone else's name to protect his own. And then I played the audio. His voice, clear as day. "She's just a placeholder. Let her wear the ring if it helps the Press silence, then a whisper from someone near the end of the table. "Jesus Christ!" Alex shot up from his chair. "This is a smear campaign." I didn't move. "It's your voice, Alex. No one forced you to say those things." His eyes darted to Julian. "You gave her this." Julian shrugged. "I gave her the truth." "You think this makes you better?" Alex snapped. "You both look pathetic." "I think it makes you finished," I said, cold. This board deserved the truth. And now they have it. The chairman cleared his throat again. "We'll need to discuss next steps in private." "Claire, thank you." I nodded and gathered my folder, calm as ever. As I reached the door, Alex followed me out. "Claire," he hissed, "what do you want? Money? An apology?" I turned slowly. "I wanted a husband. I got a coward." He stepped closer, voice low and bitter. "You think they'll keep you around after this? You think they'll see you as anything other than a woman scorned?" I smiled. "Maybe. Or maybe they'll see me as the only person in this room who told the truth." He looked at me then, really looked, and I saw it. Fear, not of exposure, of me. The woman he broke now stood taller than him, clearer than him, sharper than he ever expected. He had wanted me quiet, beautiful, useful. Now I was dangerous. He opened his mouth again, but I held up a finger. "Speak again," I said, "and I'll leak the video." His jaw clenched. "Good boy," I said, brushing past him. Julian waited by the elevator. He didn't speak until the doors closed. "You scared him," he said, voice low. "Not enough," I replied. "Why didn't you use everything?" "You held back," I glanced at him. "Because this was just the beginning," Julian smiled. "And what happens next?" I looked ahead, chin high, eyes steady. "Now," I said, "we take the empire." The wedding invitation sat on top of the stack of documents like it still meant something. Cream cardstock, gold lettering, sealed with the same monogram I used to trace with my finger when I thought it stood for love. Now it stood for leverage, for lies. I held it between two fingers like it might stain me if I gripped too hard. The envelope was unopened, but I already knew what was inside. It was from Alex's sister. A gala. Family only. Their annual winter legacy dinner. The first one I was supposed to attend as his wife. I sealed it back into a fresh envelope, this time with something extra. The ledger. The same one Julian had leaked to me 2 nights ago. Every shell company. Every off-book transfer. Every name they paid to stay quiet. I didn't write a return address. Just a sticky note on top. "Thought this belonged with the family." I left it with the concierge requesting same-day delivery to the Grant estate. Then I walked out. It was drizzling, just enough to chill, not enough to soak. My coat was open, but I didn't fix it. I liked the cold now. It reminded me I could still feel. Julian was waiting across the street, leaning against his car, arms crossed like he hadn't slept. He straightened as I crossed toward him. "You did it?" he asked. "I sent it," I said, "right to the dinner table." He gave a slow whistle. "You just turned their legacy dinner into a funeral." I smiled without humour. "I'm only setting the table." He opened the passenger door. "You sure you want to be seen with me? I want them to know I wasn't alone when I burned it all down." We drove in silence for a while, city lights streaking across the windshield. I watched the world move. Outside, while my mind traced back to all the times I smiled at people who knew I was being played. When we pulled up to the parking garage beneath the Grant Financial Building, Julian killed the engine. You still want to do this? He asked. I nodded. They think I'm going away quietly. A broken girl with her name scratched off the door. He looked at me, serious now. Claire, if you do this, there's no walking it back. I looked him straight in the eye. Good. We took the elevator to the executive floor. The receptionist, one of Alex's puppets, blinked as I stepped off. Mrs. Grant? Not anymore, I said, breezing past her, but thank you. She hesitated, then picked up the phone. I didn't wait. The doors to the boardroom were already half open, and there he was. Alex, standing near the window in a navy suit, drink in hand, surrounded by 3 board members mid-conversation. He turned when he saw me. His jaw tightened. Claire. I held his gaze as I stepped fully into the room. Julian stayed just behind me. Alex's eyes darted to the others, then back to me. You're not supposed to be here. I know, I said. But then again, neither were half the wire transfers I found. One of the board members, Mr. Langford, cleared his throat. Is this a private matter? I pulled out the second copy of the ledger I had printed, slammed it on the table. No, I said. It's a company one. Alex moved toward me fast, voice low and urgent. Claire, let's talk outside. I didn't move. You had your chance to talk. This is me finally speaking. Langford opened the ledger. His eyebrows shot up. These are internal accounts. Hidden ones, I interrupted. Used to move funds from grant charities into private ventures. Timed with false audits, names buried under shell accounts. Alex's voice sharpened. This is a forgery. Julian stepped forward. I pulled those directly from the backup servers. Time-stamped, verified. Alex's face went pale. You're siding with her? Julian smirked. I'm siding with the truth. Langford scanned the pages. This matches the whistleblower memo we received last week. Alex looked around the room, panic setting in. I stepped closer. Your sister invited me to your family dinner tonight. Alex blinked. So? I returned the invitation. With the original ledger, his voice cracked. You sent this to my family? No, I said. I sent you to them. The real you. The one who stole in their name. His hand tightened around the glass. You have no idea what you've done? Yes, I whispered. I finally did what you never expected. I didn't stay quiet. Langford straightened. Alex, I think you should excuse yourself. I built this company, Alex shouted. Julian raised an eyebrow. And now you get to watch it collapse. Alex turned on me, eyes wild now. You were supposed to be my wife. My shield, I didn't flinch. I was never your shield, just your reflection. And now the world gets to see exactly who you are. He took a step toward me. You'll regret this. No, I said, I regret trusting you. This is justice. I turned and walked out, heels clicking, Julian right behind me. As the doors shut behind us, I heard the chairman say, call legal. Now Julian leaned in as we reached the elevator. You just ended him. I looked straight ahead, voice like steel. Not yet. But I just started. The ballroom was dressed like a throne room. Crystal chandeliers, marble columns, champagne towers catching the light like gold. It was Alex's night. His victory lap. The press called it a celebration of legacy, a private gala to honor his company's expansion into Europe. His mother beamed beside him. The board circled like moths. Everyone applauded as he took the stage, smiling like nothing had crumbled beneath his feet. I stood at the back of the room in a black velvet gown, hair pinned high, lips painted with calm fury. Nobody noticed me at first. I was just another woman in a dress, until I stepped forward. Julian spotted, me first from across the crowd. He didn't smile, just gave a small nod. He knew what was coming. Alex hadn't seen me yet. He tapped the mic. Thank you all for being here tonight. This company was built on trust, on the idea that leadership is earned, not given. I walked toward the stage. Each step felt like thunder under my heels. He froze mid-sentence when he saw me. The room followed his gaze, Whispers rose like smoke. "Claire," he said into the mic, voice tight. "I wasn't expecting—" I climbed the steps beside him. "I know." He moved to block the mic. "This isn't the time." I turned to the crowd and smiled. "It's exactly the time." The room went still. "Before this celebration continues," I said, "I'd like to add something to the agenda." Alex's jaw clenched. "Claire, please." "Tonight," I continued, "we honor legacy." And legacies should be honest, shouldn't they? Gasps. Some shifted in their seats. Phones were raised now, cameras blinking. I held up a leather folder. "This is a ledger," I said. "It outlines every fraudulent transaction connected to Grant Financial's leadership. Stolen donations, fabricated audits, bribes paid under fake consulting contracts." Alex tried to speak. I raised a hand. I was listed as co-signer. Without my knowledge. If this leaked, I would have been blamed. Silenced. Discredited murmurs broke into small eruptions. Julian didn't move. Alex's mother stood slowly. "Claire, we can discuss this privately." "No," I said, "because it was never private. The moment Alex chose to use my name to protect his empire, he made it public." Alex stepped forward, desperation breaking through. "Claire, you don't understand." I faced him. "You promised me forever. But you handed me over like a bargaining chip." His voice dropped. "If you do this, you ruin everything. You ruin me." I leaned in, just loud enough for the mic to catch. "You already ruined me. I'm just returning the favor." Then I turned to the crowd. "And in case anyone doubts, this story, there's more." I pointed to the back of the room. The double doors opened. 2 federal investigators stepped in, badges visible. "This event is now under legal audit," I said. "You may want to step away from the champagne." A board member stood. "Alex, is this true?" He didn't answer. The applause began slowly. One woman, then another. Then the room erupted. Applause. Not for Alex, but for the collapse. He stood frozen on the stage, spotlight still on him, smile dead on his face. I stepped down. Julian met me at the bottom of the stairs. "That was necessary," I said. He held out his hand. I didn't take it. Instead, I turned back to the stage one last time. Alex was still standing there, alone, drowning in light. I raised my glass. "To your empire," I said. It looked better on fire. The boardroom was quiet, but the tension clung to the walls like smoke. Golden light poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Grant Tower penthouse, casting long shadows across the polished table. At the head sat Alex, hands folded, jaw tight, eyes on the door. The remaining board members were scattered across the room, pretending to check emails, pretending not to watch him fall apart. I stood just outside that door, my hand hovering over the handle. He had summoned me. Not his assistant, not legal, not PR me. I walked in slowly, each step echoing on the marble, the heels he once bought for our honeymoon now weapons on my feet. I wore black, not for mourning but for memory. He looked up. "Claire." "Alex." He gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit." I didn't. "Say what you called me here to say." He leaned back. "They're panicking. The board, the investors, the press. But I can fix it. Of course you think you can. I just need a clean statement. Public denial of the ledger. A joint message. You say you misunderstood the accounts. That you were manipulated." I stared at him. "You want me to lie for you?" He stood now, voice low. "I want you to survive." This, with me, I crossed my arms. "You didn't want me when it mattered." He stepped closer. "I was protecting everything." "No," I said. "You were protecting yourself. Your name, your seat, your throne." His jaw tensed. "Do you have any idea what I've built?" "Yes," I said. "That's why I'm tearing it down." He walked around the table, coming to stand in front of me. "We can still fix this, Claire. If we stand together, if we show them we're unified." "We're not unified," I snapped. "You threw me. to Julian like I was a piece of the strategy. You used our wedding to boost your stock, and when I found the truth, you tried to drown me in your lies. His voice dropped, sharp and bitter. I did what I had to do. You think Julian didn't want something too? He's just better at pretending I didn't flinch. Maybe. But he didn't marry me to bury me. He stared at me for a long moment. So that's it? No, I said. That's not it. I reached into my coat and pulled out 2 envelopes. One held a full notarized statement of my testimony. The other held a contract. He raised an eyebrow. What's this? A choice. I stepped closer, laying both on the table in front of him. This one, I said, tapping the statement, goes straight to the Federal Commission. Your throne burns. Your name dies with it, and the other? He asked, eyes narrowing. You resign. Today, publicly. You admit to financial misconduct. You take the fall. Alone. In exchange, I withhold my testimony. He laughed once, dry. You think I'm stepping down because you threaten me with paper? No, I said, because for once in your life, I want you to look at the cost of what you've done and realize you don't get to keep everything. He looked down at the contracts, then back at me. I built this empire, he said. You built it on people you thought were disposable, I shot back. Me included. You were never disposable. Then prove it, I said. Choose me. He blinked. What? You want to fix this? Choose me. Not your throne, not your name, not your press team. Me. As a person. As your wife. He was quiet. Then, if I resign, everything goes with it. And if you don't, I said, you lose me. We stared at each other. The seconds ticked by. Finally, he reached forward. His hand hovered over the resignation letter. Then he pulled back. I can't. I nodded once, not surprised, not even hurt, just done. I picked up the envelope with the testimony and tucked it into my purse. Thank you, I said softly. For what? For making the choice easier. He stepped toward me, almost desperate. Claire! I looked him dead in the eye. You chose your crown. Now wear it alone. And I turned and walked out, leaving him to the silence he'd built for himself. Julian was waiting in the hallway. He raised an eyebrow. Well? He chose the throne. Julian nodded. Of course he did. I looked straight ahead. Then we burn it down. The sky was a soft grey as I stepped onto the steps of the courthouse, clutching the final document in my hand like a loaded weapon. People passed me, busy with their lives, unaware that just days ago I was a wife standing in a white dress, smiling at a man who had already sold me off before I said, I do. My heels clicked against the concrete, steady, sharp, the same way I walked out of his life, and into the fire he never saw coming. Inside, everything felt too bright. Cold marble floors, polished wooden benches. A clerk behind the counter gave me a polite smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Filing for divorce? She asked, typing without looking. No, I said. I'm filing to take back what's mine. She paused, looked up. I slid the folder toward her, the trust documents, the financial ledgers, the power of attorney revocation he never thought I'd find. She raised an eyebrow but didn't ask questions. Good. Because if she had, I might have told her everything. How Alex Grant gave me away to his best friend, how he turned our wedding into a business. Arrangement. How he thought I'd crumble like his exes, pretty and disposable. I wasn't disposable, not anymore. Outside, a black car waited at the curb. Julian sat behind the wheel watching me through the windshield. Engine running. He didn't say anything when I got in, but he didn't need to. The air between us was charged, heavy with unfinished things. You filed it? He asked finally. I nodded. All of it. He exhaled, like the weight of years had just lifted off both our backs. We're almost there, he said. No, I replied. I'm there. You were never the one left behind. He went quiet. The ride to the estate took 20 minutes. 20 minutes of silence, of thoughts screaming louder than words. My fingers traced the gold ring on my hand until I pulled it off and let it drop into the leather seat between us. At the gate, security waved us through. The Grant family estate still stood like a monument, tall, cold, proud, a legacy built on silence. But today, I wasn't silent anymore. We walked through the main doors together. Alex stood at the far end of the foyer, flanked by his lawyer, his mother, and 2 board members. He didn't look surprised, just annoyed. "Claire," he said, "back to play the victim again?" "No," I said. "I'm here to close the book." He folded his arms. "You already got what you wanted. Your name cleared, the media on your side." I stepped forward. "I didn't come for a headline. I came for the truth." Julian moved beside me. "You signed over her shares without telling her. Tried to freeze her accounts, transferred assets into a trust using a forged power of attorney." Alex smiled, slow and smug. "Prove it." I held up the notarized confession. "Your assistant flipped." His face changed. Gone was the smirk. In its place, panic. I stepped closer, my voice steady. "You didn't just give me away, Alex. You tried to erase me. You were nothing but a piece of leverage," he snapped. "And now I'm the leverage that buried you." His mother stepped forward, trying to defuse. "Claire, darling, there's no need to escalate. We can settle this quietly," I turned to her. "You raised him to believe women are pawns. That love is a currency. You should have raised him better." She paled. I faced Alex one last time. "You took my trust, my name, my wedding, and you gave it away. Now I'm taking back everything you built from it." I reached into my bag, pulled out the signed buyout offer, and handed it to the board member. "You'll find the full shareholder transition is now legal. I own 31%. As of this morning, I am your largest independent stakeholder." Alex stared at the document like it was written in another language. "You can't—" "I already did," I cut in. "You gave me away, Alex. But you forgot one thing. What's that?" he whispered. "I wasn't yours to give." Julian opened the door for me. I didn't look back, not even when Alex called my name, because there's nothing left to say to a man who gave everything away and didn't realize the most valuable thing he lost was the one walking out the door.